about it. Coffee was born in Africa, is a lot cultivated in Brazil. So how come the Italians think they're expert in coffee? And so here comes Mr. Bialetti, who came out with this very simple tool to make coffee at home in a very simple way. So you see that design always find a way of getting things that don't belong to you. Even tomato were not born in Italy, were imported by the United States. And we always think that they are the king of tomatoes. That's not true. It's about how you use things, how you interpret things. Let's go on. Oh, this is fantastic, fantastic. This is a guy I adore. His name is Bruno Munari. Okay, 1950, this is very important. You see, in black and white are the historical pictures, the reference historicals. In color, there will be my work. And here you see the year, okay, it's a timeline. In 1950, 5 years after Second World War, this genius was talking to people about travel sculptures. You know what I mean? In the moment in which everything was needed, were not chairs to sit, he was thinking about something else. How do you feed the soul? How do you feed the spirit? It's not about only feeding our bodies. He was thinking about travel sculptures. Sculptures that you take with you when you travel. It's such a poetic, marvelous thing. At the same time, 1957, Italy was doing one of the most sold articles in vehicles. It's called Fiat 500. You can see that the shape is taken a little bit by the Beetle or Volkswagen that came a little before. But Italians were able to make it, to shrink it, to make it smaller. And it was genius because it was bought much more than the Beetle itself. It goes Dante Giacosa, another hero of Italian design. Nowadays, of course, our relationship with cars is completely different. So this is a project of mine. It goes back to the cancer beer, something like 15 years ago. And now cars, we are overwhelmed by cars. I mean, think about Seoul. Seoul is, not only Seoul, every city in the world has got problems with cars now. So we cannot think in terms of cars. I think it's very old to think in terms of cars. So that was my design answer to the need of cars nowadays. It becomes a pot for a tree, eventually. Okay, this is Bruno Munari again, one of the travel sculptures. He did a book called Good Design. It was amazing. It was taking something like as simple as an orange, but considering it from a design point of view. And he was also saying that the round is like the perfect packaging, and the way you divide is like candies. I mean, he was looking at nature, he was looking at what surrounds us, but through a filter of poetry and fantasy, which is fantastic. We all should apply in our own lives. Okay, this is Dante Bini, 1966. It's interesting how it's the same shape of an orange in some ways. And it's also the same shape of cabins. I mean, think about humans. When we came out of caves, because our first home were caves, we tried to build cabins. And this is a cabin made with béton armé. You see, it's an inflatable structure in plastic where it was put in cement and some steel structure in order to make this kind of things, which is fantastic, I think. I mean, it's called the Bini Shed. It was a patent in the time. Actually, now in Hollywood, they rediscovered it. Robert Downey Jr., the big Hollywood actor, actually made his villa with this system, which is an incredible system. I mean, we don't have to build exactly this way. I mean, look at how closer to nature is this kind of building. And I got inspired by this kind of building when I did this show with Steve McCurry, the very famous photographer. He's a very good friend of mine. And I wanted to recreate this kind of village, global village, done with cabins, with this shape. And this was actually how the show was looking like. He's the photographer of the very famous picture. Okay, let's go on. I want to be fast and furious because they told me it's only 40 minutes and I have a lot of things to show you. Okay, go on. doesn't. I think it's better you stay there, they say, when to change. Okay, fantastic. So this is another cabin I did. You know, I participated to this show in Triennale, which is the main space for design in Milano, and they were asked, some designers were asked to do their interpretation of a room. I did this cabin, which from the outside really looks like an old cabin, an igloo, an old traditional cabin, but inside, it doesn't go, I think you, okay, no. Inside, it was my own head. I mean, it's interesting how nowadays you have to really confront yourself with things that have more with your personality. It's like, I'm trying to say, that the world doesn't need universal solutions. You need a very personal solution. And the personal solution has got more possibilities of becoming universal eventually. But let's go on. This is another fantastic thing. 1968, Furniture Fair in Milano, Salone del Mobile. Some of you know what Salone del Mobile is about. Aurelio Zanotta, the owner of Zanotta label, came out showing this project of 3 new designers. They were completely unknown, but they came out with this genius idea of how do you say, Sacco, a sack full of polystyrene spheres. And that's what it was. I mean, they filled the whole stand with these chairs, which are not the chairs, they're a concept. I mean, it's interesting, you understand? Italians in 1968 were facing, at the same time where there was a cultural revolution all around the world, Mary Quant was doing the short skirt. Italians were coming out with this kind of chair, which is totally revolutionary. I mean, you can sit on it in a very strange way. We did a very famous movie in Italy about this kind of chair. But really, it's super interesting how Italians have this approach, this completely unexpected approach to things. And here, you know, I mix the fun and the very serious part. This is Giancarlo De Carlo in 1969. This is the first community-driven architecture. Giancarlo De Carlo was a very political issues architect. So he was building this area for workers of a factory, and he built the whole thing with a community-driven design. He was involving people and saying, how would you like to have your house? How would you like to have your house? And then he was mixing all the things together in order to arrive to this, which is fantastic. You see, so that the light and the heavy, everything at the same time. You know, the big slogan about Italian design in 1962 from Ernesto Nathan Roberts is from the spoon to the city. This still, I think, describes perfectly the Italian approach. From the spoon, from the small scale, to the city, to the big scale, you have to keep the same intensity, the same strength, exactly the same strength. So, from Sacco to the community-driven architecture, exactly the same strength. Let's go on. These are my heroes, some of them were very good friends. 1970, Archizu, No Stop City. Completely delirious in this case, completely delirious. They were imagining a city that never stops, a city where we all would be equal. You know, perfect communism in a futuristic design. And you know, I try to confront myself, even if I'm a dwarf compared to them, I'm very small compared to these giants. But for example, I arrived to this consideration. You know, more and more, we are abandoning physical places. You know, more and more you go in the piazzas in Italy and you don't find people, because our piazza is this one. You know, so that my idea was to reduce the scale of all the most important Italian piazzas. Actually, you know that Italy is called the 100th piazza nation. You know, we are really, actually piazza is an Italian invention in architecture, and it's also very funny because it's an empty space, it's the void, that just by naming it, it becomes something crucial in our culture. So that I made the most important Italian piazza in a scale 1 to 250, And they became beautiful objects to put on the table of your living room, eventually, just to remember that you should go back there. You should go back there and meet people. You see, that's Italy. That's beautiful, right? This is Palmanova. It's exactly the piazza that I did the model. And that's how we grew up. We grew up in piazzas. You know, it's funny because piazza is actually a quite recent invention. You know, I was looking at the map of Milano from 1560. In 1560 Milano, there were no piazza at all. It's quite interesting, quite interesting. So that it really, the Renaissance gave this sense of community, you know, gave this sense of getting together in order to give the best, which is something that I strongly believe. Okay, here we go to another hero of my childhood. 1971, Riccardo D'Alissi. He has been a very good friend. I did a show about his work, I curated a show about his work. In 1971, he did this experiment of involving children. He was teaching architecture in Naples, you know that Naples is a very poor city. So there are a lot of problems, but he chose to choose in Naples, to teach in Naples, because Naples was really needing that kind of help. And so he was involving all the kids, and he did a lot of experiments, you know, of structure, fun, you know, design in the city to take them out from bad manners and you know, criminality, basically, because children are you know, so needed by criminality. Let's go on. Now, for example, what can I do? In 2024 with Whirlpool, I tried to have the same approach with such a funny gesture. You know, it's a simple chair, it's a simple, comfortable chair, where I did some horns, like a deer. But in this simple chair, there is a nano particles in the textiles, so they are able to clean our clothes, and you can also put their clothes to get air, because you know that Whirlpool came to me with a need. They said, you know, it's true that we do washing machines, but the problem of consumption of water is huge. We want to show people how to keep clothes without putting them directly in the washing machine. So that there is this chair on the side of the bed that we all use, but then, you know, we directly take clothes and put them in the washing machine. They really wanted to stimulate people not to do it. And that's why I came up with this drawing. And here we go again to another hero, 1972. 1972 has been a very important year for Italian design, then I will tell you why. But imagine there was this genius. Ettore Sottsass is the creator of Memphis. Ettore Sottsass has been the mastermind of Italian design. And he was working on inequalities. But for example, I show you, inequalities. Woman dressed by nature. Woman without any dress. I mean, it's interesting. He was analyzing, you know, typologies of people. Oh, this is very interesting, actually. Ancient men dressed as an assassin, modern men dressed as an assassin. So it was really, that's Italian design. That's not like sketches. This is Italian design. He was trying to identify human typologies. You know, really was a very serious work. Okay, and then he did this beautiful work. Ettore took his girlfriend and went to the Spanish desert in 1972. And he did all this metaphoric architecture, this metaphoric design. In fact, the book is called Design Metaphors. This gesture, you see, he only put wires on an empty space, is called with a broken floor, because the shadows for me are twisted. You know, imagining such a space as a broken floor, that's Italian design. That's the Italian design at its purest peak. Or look at this other one, even from Design Metaphors. Design of a door to get into the darkness. This is Italian design. Because it's not only only about sitting on a stupid chair. It's about making your mind think. It's about feeding your soul. That's what Italian design is about. And, for example, this is not Italian. This is French. This is the only exception, but I wanted to show you this, because this is a very important point, and actually it happens in the same year, in 1972. This engineer, Mr. Henri Massonnet, he was a Frenchman. He established his own company, and he came out with this, the first monoblock produced in one piece molding chair. It's a very historical piece, because this was not patented. Mr. Massonnet didn't patent this chair. So it's been the most copied chair in the world. You see interpretation of this chair all around the world. But I must say, it was perfect. But it's not very Italian. We don't deal with perfection. We don't. In fact, in 1972, there was a big homage to Italian design in the Museum of the Art of New York. Italy, the new domestic landscape. And that was actually showing to the world that there was another way, another approach to design. That was the Italian one. And that's what we are talking about. I'll show you only two things that were shown in the MoMA in 1972. One is from Mario Bellini, a very good friend and a maestro, Cara Sutra. Is a car. At that time, cars were so important. It's a car that was like a small house, but it goes much more forward than the Volkswagen van that was existing at that time. You see, that was a beautiful project. And actually, Mario, when he went to New York for the show, started a trip in a coast to coast from New York to Los Angeles, and he went to visit another Italian genius, Soleri in Nevada, was doing this ideal city, so that even Italians, when they go abroad, they try to make a dream come true. And he went to Las Vegas as well, where at the same time Robert Venturi and David Scott Brown were writing a very important book about design called Learning from Las Vegas. These are all things that are part of our history of design. Sounds good? Okay. Here is Mario, and here is the letter of the Museum of the Arts, because you have to think that in 1972, it was like in the Middle Age, in the center, in the heart of America. Actually, it's like the Middle Age even now a day in the heart of America, but that's another thing. And with this letter, Emilio Ambas, the chief curator of the MoMA, allowed Mario to do whatever he wanted, and that's what design is about. This is Ettore Sozza's intervention in the MoMA in 1972. He was doing modules for the house. Fantastic project, look at this, fantastic project. Completely decomposing the functions in the house. Completely. Total revolution. And that's Enzo 1974, Enzo Mari. I mean, Enzo Mari was so political. It was such an old idea of communists between the Italian designers. And so he made tabula rasa. Tabula rasa means blank page on design. And so said, okay, I will give you tools and teach you how to make your own furniture. I will only give you instructions, and you buy the wood and the nail and the hammer. Do it yourself. And it's self-design, self-production, autoproduzione by Enzo Mari. Genius. And here there are some examples. You see, that's what he was doing. Instructions. Cool, eh? Very cool. The table, the chair. For example, I'm going to be political now, after so many years. 50 years have gone. It's very difficult, very different actually. Not very difficult, but very different. So for example, this was a political statement that I could do with this chair for Driade a few years ago, 2012. I called it 56 hours. You know why? Because when people see the price, they have to understand how long it took to the workers to make it. It takes 56 hours to make it. That's a political statement. That explains why something costs that money. Otherwise, most of the time, people say, why does it cost that much? And we don't have an answer. Here, I'm going to give you an answer. You know, price is a very political statement for designer. Very political. You know, the price has to be correct. You know that the CEO of Prada, 1 month ago almost, he was confessing to his audience, the world audience, that the fashion labels have increased too much the prices of things. And he was saying it's a no-back process. He was sorry about it. He wanted to apologize to the audience. But fuck, the world is crazy in some ways. Really, price is crazy. If you know the multipliers from the factory to the shop, the world has gone crazy. So, let's go back to history of design, 1979. Here is a young Renzo Piano, you know, the world-renowned architect. In 1979, he was doing neighborhood workshop in Otranto. He was calling the neighborhood, actually, and involving them in the process of restoring their own houses. You see how someone like Renzo Piano, a genius that does beautiful architectures, but that's the seed of that huge tree that we can see in the world nowadays. And I'm interested to see it. And this is Ugo Aguirre. Ugo Aguirre has always been such a provocateur. You know, the strategies for the reappropriation of housing. So we always say, you know, you should look at things from a different point of view. And he was actually establishing a different point of view just by changing the angle of how he looked at things. Here, for example, there is the big sentence about this work. It's called abitare, to live is to feel everywhere in your own house. And this picture explains perfectly the theoretical operations that he was doing. Beautiful, eh? To feel everywhere in your own house. And that's actually what I felt when I designed this sofa. Because I was living in New York, and all the homeless people were sleeping and laying on the abandoned sofas. So in some ways I was thinking, they are the real owners of the city. Because they really live it. We don't, we just walk fastly around. They live the city. So I wanted to do really a sofa inspired by that. And this sofa is called adaptation, and the word is a key word, because I was living a bad moment of my life. I had been left by my former wife, and I was feeling like something was missing. You know, a leg of my original sofa was broken. So I had to find a new level in order to keep balance, you know? And so adaptation, which is actually the form of survival that we human beings need in order to go on. This is another beautiful, I wanted to mix also art. This is a very famous artist from the arte povera, the poor art. We're talking about the great Alberto Burri. Alberto Burri was called by a politician in 1994. There had been a earthquake in Sicily. And Alberto Burri had this incredible architectural intuition. He took all the rests of the little village, and he just compacted the rests and put some cement on it, recreating the plan of the old village destroyed by the earthquake. It's an amazing work of land art. Amazing. You should take the flight, go to Palermo, rent a car. It's 40 minutes from Palermo. It's one of the most beautiful artworks that you could ever see. And you know what's funny? No one is there if you go. No one goes there. In Italy, we're not able to value the things that we have. This is very peculiar. And this is, you know, for example, I must tell you. Okay, now I will give you a secret, okay? But don't say it's around. You know what's the secret of Italian design? That the best people coming out from the architectural school, after World War II, you know, during the Reconstruction, they were not able to build buildings because the market wanted something fast and badly done. So the good designers, the good architects were not in the condition of working Because the builders wanted something cheap, something with people that closed not one eye, two eyes, and made ugly things. That's why if you go to most of the cities, the reconstruction after the Second World War has been a disaster. I can totally say it's a disaster. And someone like Gaetano Pesce, that added green architecture taken in Venice, for example, we're talking about Achille Castiglioni, we're talking about Gaetano Pesce, we're talking about Alessandro Mendini, Ettore Sottsass. These are all architects, they were not designers. The word designers, come on. The schools of design actually were invented by Thomas Maldonado in Italy. He was my professor. He was Argentinian, he was the dean at the School of Ulm in Germany. So that it's not really an Italian thing, because, as I told you, from the spoon to the city, you cannot just design spoons, or just design cities. It's to do both. If you do both, you understand a lot of things. And so Gaetano does this beautiful sofa for Cassina, called Sunset in New York. He was living in New York at the time. You see, that's more architecture than any other architecture. What's the difference? There is no difference. And this is the great Alessandro. We share friendship with this amazing man. This is a stencil. It's called the Mendinigrafo. And Alessandro was designing everything, from buildings to chairs to little objects with the Mendinigrafo. This is a bomb in your mind, a bomb. Think about it. You do something that only belongs to yourself. Those lines were only his lines. And he can design the world with that stencil. And I wanted to show another work that no one knows about Alessandro. Alessandro, in 1989, did this project called Leones. He took street vendors from the street. He took all the fake materials that they were selling and designed it. And so only for his signature, of course they were hyper-valued, and people was buying everything from the street vendors. This is design. You understand? This is totally revolutionary. It's totally looking at things from another point of view. But this is design. And this is another maestro of mine, Corrado Levi, 1989. He's a gay professor. He was probably the best professor I had in Politecnico in Milano, and he designed this bench, a triangular bench, to remind the homosexuals in Auschwitz, which were forced to wear the pink triangle. And here are my works. Why I show you this work? This was the Milanese Pavilion in Shanghai in 2010. Okay, at that time, in Milano, there was a right-wing government. The big difference in Italy, for example, about right-wing and left-wing, is the right-wing believes in the right of land. If you are born in Italy, Italy is yours. The left-wing believes in the right of blood. No, actually the contrary, sorry. Sorry, I apologize. The right of land and right of blood are but listen to me, this is a very important topic. Right of blood means you are Korean by blood, okay? So only you can be Korean. But excuse me, if I come here and live 40 years, as he did, for example, he's been living here for 40 years, he's as Korean as you are. Actually, probably even more, because he decided to come here. For you, it just happened. You know what I mean? So I wanted to defend this principle, and everything here to show the Milanesity is from people that gave a contribution to Milano, but were not born in Milano. From Leonardo da Vinci to Boccioni to Lucio Fontana. Lucio Fontana was actually Argentinian. So that, for me it was really to underline the fact that creativity is not about where you are born, it's about where you decide to go to live. And this is the work of a very good friend of mine, which died 1 month ago. I loved him very much. He's Oliviero Toscani. This is the campaign for Benetton. And this shows exactly our point of view, the Italian design point of view. The heart of a white man, of a black man, and of a yellow man, they are the same. The same. There is no difference. So we don't understand why we call them white, black, and yellow. Actually, I'm not white. Do you think I'm white? And you're not yellow. What the fuck? I really don't get it. Anyway. And that's what I believe, that's what I believe in. I believe in law, I believe in passion. I believe in the power of your hearts. You know, I always like to show this work, which goes back to a long time ago. We cancelled the years. I think goes back to 2002, something like 25 years ago. You know, I was asked by this brand, Bizazza, it's a mosaic brand, to do a booth for a very, for a tile show. Tile show. Usually people goes in tile show showing samples of colors, of treatments, you know, something very technical. I convinced them to do something like this, which was monumental and just, you know, an act of love. And it was a huge success. People was coming here, asking about Bizazza, taking pictures. And you have to think that it was 2002. You know, it was not social media and whatever, and the mobile phones. But guys, it was very powerful, very powerful. And it was just a booth for a technical fair. I'm telling you this because there is a lot of young designers that don't know how to come out with, you know, they say, I don't have chances, I don't have a big work, but you can do strong things with small chances. When you have a small occasion, just take it and make it strong. That's the difference, you know. And this is actually the last project I'm showing you, is the historical project. It goes to 2000. It's been made by some young people, friend of mine, called Studio Nucleo, and it's an armchair. And I'll show you how it's done. You see our cardboard cut with some shapes, then covered with earth, and it becomes this. That's the design. That's a beautiful design. And also because, you know, because the cardboard, after a while, just disappears. And it's not waste, you know. It just becomes actually good for the earth. So that I think it's a beautiful project. And you know, this is a vase I just designed. It's a heartbeat containing a flower, and I wanted to show you flowers because flowers for me are a goal. You know, when you say, what would you like to design? I would like to design something that is similar to a flower. Because flowers are beautiful, first of all, they actually attract us for the beauty. But at the same time, they are the most useful thing in nature. Because they start the whole reproduction process in nature. So that flowers are beautiful. And you know, flowers makes all of us humans, completely ridiculous. This is called Green Line. It was inspired when I went to Lebanon. There had been the local war between Muslims and Christians. And he said, excuse me, you shoot at each other just because you're Muslims and you're Christians? In the middle, there was this street where they were shooting at each other from the two sides, and the flowers were growing, and they renamed the street Green Line. Because really the flower can go through any kind of thick layer of asphalt. It really doesn't care. And that's the vase I did inspire to Green Line for Bitossi. And you know, inequalities, we are men and women, enemies. You know, I did this project, which is one of my more iconic projects. Is inspired, of course, from the design lovers that are in the room by the Panton chair. That's obvious. But I wanted to add something. There is a story from Plato in the Symposium that says that humans used to be only one. And they were so happy and powerful around the planet that all the gods wanted to punish them. So that Zeus just divided the human beings into us, men and women, forcing them to reunite in order to get the previous happiness. And that's something I wanted to do. You know, disequalities, in this case, the disequality is something that goes to inequality, because love makes us equal. And it's inequality that makes equality. And you know, it's men and women are the Garden of Eden to me. And I live in the Garden of Eden. This is my house. You see, there is the snake with the apple in the mouth. You know,
the Garden of Eden is a very beautiful image. And actually, if you want to know the secret of my house, is that I consider myself a Christian, but I don't accept the final of the Bible version. I don't want to be kicked out from paradise. I want to eat apple every day, but I don't want to be kicked out from paradise. And, and you know, that's my casa. And the concept of casa is a very important concept, because in Italian it means home, home. So when I did, for example, the headquarters of AC Milan, which is a very famous football team in Italy, I called it Casa Milan. And you know, it was an open place. It was not only the headquarters of the team, but also the house, the home of all the supporters. They were feeling inside as if they were part of the horizon of the place. And here you see again cells, particles. You know, like you belong to something bigger. Actually, going back to Shakespeare, you know, we are particles of stars. And I close my presentation. Oh, no, actually not even, not yet. I'm proud of this smallest project I did in my career, because by definition I hate barriers. So when I was asked to design a door handle, I said, but I hate doors. What happens if I hate doors? So that I had to design a door handle that made sense to me. And so starting from a cylinder, I just took off matter and I designed a little heart. And the name of the door handle tells a lot about my point of view. Only love opens doors, and that's the main point. And here I explain you the last project of mine, not the last in the sense of when I did it, but the last project in the presentation. It's called AND, okay? AND in English is the conjunction. You and me, and you, and you, and you, and. It's a conjunction, okay? Fantastic. So I went to Giulio Cappellini showing this drawing. And Giulio said, Fabio, you went crazy. What is this? I said, it's a sofa. And he said, but come on, it's a sofa, it just falls. He said, it's true, but it's like humans. By themselves, they fall all the time. But at least they must be two. So if there are two, you already are balanced. You had another one, you're stronger. You had another one, you're even stronger. So that end, to me, if you see it in reverse, it's DNA. And it's our DNA, it's the human DNA. You know, united we stand, united we win. And I wanted to close my presentation with this beautiful image. It goes to Margaret Mead, the most important anthropologist of 20th century. Once she was asked, which was the most important, the first sign of evolution. And, you know, you would have thought that she would have answered the wheel, the invention of the fire, the pottery, eventually. She said, no. This bone is a femur, broken and healed. And she said, in the animal kingdom, if an animal breaks a femur, they just don't survive. Humans could survive because we are able to create a system of sustain of each other, of care of each other, that is the essence of our relationship. That's why, not inequalities, guys. Let's talk about equalities. Evviva Borea.